Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. It's the kind of devastating twist that could shatter an entire family, and shake the Newman legacy to its core. The calm that seemed to settle after months of chaos in Genoa City has been brutally ripped apart by an accident that leaves Claire Grace fighting for her life. While doctors rush to save her, Victoria Newman stands frozen, her world spinning out of control. And just when she thinks nothing else could possibly upend her, the truth hits: Victoria is pregnant. This revelation, both miraculous and horrifying in its timing, threatens to change everything she thought she knew about herself, her family, and the daughter she just found again. It all begins with a storm, both literal and emotional. Claire had been restless for days, torn between her complicated feelings for Holden Novak and the heavy guilt she still carried from her past. She'd told herself she was fine, that she could move on, but deep down, the fragile piece she'd built was crumbling. After a tense argument at the Abbott estate about her future with Holden, Claire stormed out, tears blurring her vision as she jumped into her car. She needed air, distance, anything to silence the storm inside her head. But in soap opera fashion, fate had other plans. Moments later, a screech of tires, a blinding flash of headlights, and a crash that echoed through the night would send shockwaves through Genoa City. When word spread that Claire's car had been found mangled off the side of the road, Victoria and Cole were the first to arrive at the hospital. The sight of their daughter on a stretcher, bruised, unconscious, and hooked to machines, was enough to shatter even Victor Newman's legendary composure. Victoria collapsed into Cole's arms, her mind flashing through every moment she'd almost lost Claire before. The hospital corridors echoed with the sounds of panic and heartbreak as Dr. Elena Dawson briefed the family. Claire had suffered significant internal injuries, and her condition was critical. They were doing everything they could, but there were no guarantees. Meanwhile, Holden Novak was nowhere to be found. Rumors quickly spread that he'd been seen near the crash site earlier, and whispers began that perhaps the accident wasn't as random as it seemed. Victoria, though reeling, refused to believe Holden would ever hurt Claire intentionally, but even she couldn't ignore the gnawing unease in her gut. What had they been fighting about before the crash? Why had Claire been driving so recklessly? And could Holden's secretive behavior in the days leading up to the tragedy be connected to it all? As the hours stretched into days, Victoria barely left Claire's bedside. Her heart broke every time she looked at the young woman lying motionless beneath the harsh fluorescent lights. It wasn't supposed to be like this. She'd just begun to build a relationship with her daughter, to heal the old wounds that Jordan's manipulation had left behind. Now, all of that was hanging by a thread. The monitors beeped softly, a haunting reminder that life can turn on a dime. But then, out of nowhere, Victoria began to feel dizzy, nauseous, and disoriented. At first, she brushed it off as exhaustion. After all, she hadn't eaten or slept in days. But when Nikki insisted she go home and rest, something inside Victoria rebelled. She couldn't leave Claire, not now. Still, her body wasn't cooperating. By the next morning, she fainted in the hallway outside Claire's room, sending the entire Newman family into another panic. Nate Hastings, who happened to be nearby, rushed to her side and ordered a full workup. When the test results came back, the words that left his mouth made Victoria's world tilt off its axis. "Victoria, you're pregnant." For a moment, she couldn't speak. She thought she'd misheard him. Pregnant? At her age? At this moment? It was inconceivable, literally and emotionally. Nate explained that the stress of the last few weeks likely exacerbated her condition, but the tests were clear. Victoria was expecting. As the reality sank in, her first reaction wasn't joy, it was shock, confusion, even fear. She'd just gotten her daughter back, and now she was on the verge of becoming a mother again under the most chaotic circumstances imaginable. But the real bombshell wasn't just her pregnancy, it was the question that immediately followed. Who's the father? Rumors quickly began to swirl that it could be Cole Howard, reigniting one of Genoa City's most complex love stories. Others speculated that Victoria's connection with Nate during those long nights of emotional vulnerability had deepened more than she'd admitted. The whispers grew louder, and the media frenzy outside Newman Enterprises exploded. Victor, always the patriarch, demanded to know the truth, while Nikki begged her daughter to focus on her health first. Victoria, however, couldn't focus on anything except Claire. Sitting beside her daughter's hospital bed, she pressed her hand to her abdomen, torn between two overwhelming emotions, the desperate fear of losing one child and the dawning realization that another life was growing inside her. It was poetic and cruel all at once. Life and death dancing side by side in a single moment. As days turned into weeks, Claire's condition fluctuated. There were moments of hope, tiny movements, slight improvements in her vitals, that sent waves of relief through the Newman family. But there were also setbacks, terrifying drops in blood pressure that sent doctors scrambling. Victoria prayed harder than she ever had before, promising that if Claire survived, she would change everything about how she'd lived. She would be a better mother, a better person, and this new baby, this unexpected miracle, would be a symbol of healing, not pain. Meanwhile, Holden returned to town, visibly shaken and consumed by guilt. He visited the hospital in secret, terrified of what Victoria would say. When she finally confronted him, the tension between them was electric. "You were the last person to see her, Holden." Victoria snapped, her voice trembling. "Tell me what happened that night." Holden, his eyes filled with tears, insisted that Claire had been upset but that he never meant for her to drive off like that. "She said she needed to clear her head. I thought she'd go to the park, not this," he choked out. Holden's remorse was real, but his presence ignited another round of Newman drama. Cole, fiercely protective, demanded he leave. Victor called for a full investigation, while Nikki quietly wondered if Holden's involvement went deeper than anyone realized. Amid the chaos, Victoria's health became a concern. The stress was endangering her pregnancy, and her doctors warned her to take it easy, but how could she rest when her daughter's life hung in the balance? In one of the most emotional moments of the year, Victoria sat at Claire's bedside and began talking softly, recounting the story of when she found out she was pregnant with her, how terrified she'd been, how much she'd loved her even before she was born, and how she'd never stopped searching for her. "You're my miracle," Victoria whispered through tears. "And now, somehow, there's another one. But I need you here to see it, Claire. Please wake up. Please come back to me." The camera lingered on Victoria's trembling hand as she touched Claire's cheek, a haunting image of a mother's love that transcends pain, guilt, and even fate. And just as the monitor beeped erratically, signaling a change, Victoria gasped, clutching her stomach as another wave of dizziness struck. Nate and Elena rushed in, stabilizing her as Victor barked orders in the background. The entire scene was chaos, two lives on the brink, one clinging to consciousness, the other carrying new life inside her. By the episode's end, viewers were left with a cliffhanger that will be remembered for years. Claire's eyes fluttered open just as Victoria was being wheeled away for emergency care. The screen faded to black with a single haunting line echoing through the hospital, "Mom?" The emotional fallout from this storyline will be massive. Victor will undoubtedly vow to protect both Victoria and the baby, even if it means going to war with Holden. Nikki will try to hold the family together while silently reliving her own maternal regrets. Cole will be torn between supporting Victoria and questioning whether this pregnancy will reopen wounds from their past. And Claire, once she recovers, will have to face the truth about what really happened that night and how her mother's new pregnancy could change their fragile bond forever. For Victoria, this twist represents both agony and rebirth. The pregnancy forces her to confront everything she's suppressed for years, her need for control, her fear of vulnerability, and the way she's buried her emotions under layers of corporate armor. It's no longer about business, about Newman Enterprises, or even about her reputation. It's about family. About legacy. About love that survives even in the darkest hour. As for Claire, her road to recovery will be long and filled with emotional hurdles. She'll have to reckon with her near-death experience, her lingering guilt over her relationship with Holden, and the complex new family dynamic her mother's pregnancy introduces. The question is, Can she accept this second chance at life, or will the trauma of the accident push her even further away? One thing is certain, nothing will ever be the same again. Victoria's pregnancy and Claire's brush with death mark a turning point not only for the Newman family but for the young and the restless itself. In a world where secrets never stay buried and emotions run deeper than reason, this storyline promises heartbreak, redemption, and the kind of multi-generational drama that keeps fans glued to their screens. Victoria Newman thought she had already faced her greatest trials, but fate has just handed her another test, one that could destroy her or finally heal her fractured family. As she sits between two worlds, the fragile heartbeat of her unborn child and the silent stillness of her daughter's hospital room, Victoria realizes the painful truth: sometimes, the greatest miracles come wrapped in tragedy. And in Genoa City, miracles always come with a price. The Newman family had faced their fair share of heartache before, but this tragedy felt different. It cut deeper, like a wound that refused to stop bleeding. In the days following the devastating accident, Genoa City seemed to hold its breath. Outside Memorial Hospital, reporters camped out, hungry for updates on the fate of Claire Grace, Victor Newman's newly accepted granddaughter, and the shocking revelation that her mother, Victoria, was unexpectedly pregnant. It was a story no one saw coming, a family simultaneously praying for life and fearing death. Inside those sterile white walls, emotions ran high, and secrets began to unravel that could redefine everything the Newmans thought they knew about love, loyalty, and legacy. Victoria sat alone in her hospital room, weak but restless. She'd been discharged temporarily after collapsing from stress and dehydration, but her mind remained tethered to Claire. Her hands rested protectively on her abdomen as if guarding the fragile miracle growing inside her. She hadn't told many people the truth yet, not about the father, not about the timeline, not about the crushing guilt that consumed her every time she closed her eyes. The moment she'd heard she was pregnant had felt surreal, but now it felt cruel. How could she celebrate new life while her daughter's fate remained uncertain? Nikki entered quietly, her face drawn with exhaustion but soft with maternal concern. "Sweetheart," she said gently, taking Victoria's hand, "you need to eat something. You're not just taking care of yourself now, you're taking care of that little one too." Victoria forced a thin smile but shook her head. "I can't, Mom. Not while Claire's still in there fighting for her life. Every time I close my eyes, I see her lying in that bed. What if she doesn't wake up?" Nikki's voice trembled as she replied, "She will. Claire's strong, just like you. You can't lose hope." But hope was slipping through Victoria's fingers like sand. The doctors had explained that while Claire's vitals were stable, her recovery was uncertain. There was brain swelling, internal damage, and no guarantee she would ever fully regain consciousness. Each word was like a knife twisting in Victoria's chest. Meanwhile, Victor had taken charge, as he always did. The patriarch of the Newman clan ordered top specialists from around the country to consult on Claire's case. He demanded answers about the accident, about why his granddaughter had been on that road, about whether someone had tampered with her car, and most of all, about Holden Novak's role in it all. He'd grown to tolerate Holden as a presence in Claire's life, but now he saw him as a threat. "No one," Victor had declared in that signature steely tone, "hurts my family and walks away unscathed." Cole Howard, however, was torn between two fires, his old love for Victoria and his guilt over their shared daughter's suffering. He was there at the hospital day and night, often pacing the hallways like a ghost. When Victoria finally told him about her pregnancy, his reaction was not what she expected. "Pregnant?" he repeated, stunned, the color draining from his face. Victoria nodded, tears pooling in her eyes. "I didn't plan it, Cole. I didn't even think it was possible at this stage in my life, but it's happening. And I don't even know what to feel anymore." He ran a hand through his hair, struggling to process the words. "Is it mine?" he finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The question hung in the air like smoke. Victoria's eyes widened in hurt, but she understood why he asked. Their connection had rekindled briefly during the chaos of Jordan's downfall, those nights filled with grief, shared pain, and unresolved love, but there had also been Nate. I don't know, she admitted softly. And that's what terrifies me the most. For the first time in years, Cole looked at her not as the fierce CEO of Newman Enterprises, but as the woman he'd loved and lost. No matter what, he said after a long pause, I'm here. For you. For Claire. For this baby. We'll figure it out. That promise brought a flicker of warmth to Victoria's heart, but it didn't erase the storm raging around them. Holden had reappeared, desperate to clear his name. He went to Nick, hoping his longtime friendship might mean a fair hearing, but the Newmans were a fortress now, united by pain and suspicion. Nick, protective of his sister, told Holden to stay away. You've done enough damage, he said coldly. Whatever happened that night, you're part of the reason she's lying in that bed. If you want forgiveness, you won't find it here. Holden's voice cracked as he replied, I loved her, Nick. I still do. That night, she was scared, not of me, but of something else. She said someone was following her. That statement sent chills through Nick's spine. Could there have been another car involved? Could the crash have been intentional? He decided not to tell Victoria right away, not until he had proof. But as he dug deeper, the evidence began to point towards something darker, traces of tampering on Claire's brakes, strange phone calls made from an unlisted number hours before the crash, and a surveillance video that captured a mysterious vehicle speeding away from the scene. While Nick played detective, Victoria found herself grappling with her own inner war. The pregnancy was becoming harder to hide, and soon she would have to make it public. She dreaded the media frenzy that would follow, the headlines, the gossip, the questions about who the father was. But even more than that, she dreaded Victor's reaction. Her father loved control, and a surprise pregnancy was the one thing that threw his carefully curated world into chaos. When Victor eventually learned the truth, the explosion was inevitable. Another child, Victoria? And you don't even know who the father is? His voice was booming, the anger barely concealing the fear underneath. Don't you dare judge me, Victoria snapped. This isn't about business or control, it's about life. My life. My daughter's life. My baby's life. I won't let you turn this into a Newman Enterprises scandal. Victor's expression softened for a fleeting moment, but his pride wouldn't allow him to back down completely. You're my daughter. And I will protect you, even from yourself if I must. Then protect Claire. Victoria shouted through tears. Stop making this about you, about the family image, about everything that doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is whether my daughter wakes up. Their confrontation was the kind of raw, emotional powerhouse scene that the young and the restless fans live for, a father and daughter at war over love, legacy, and survival. Meanwhile, back in Claire's hospital room, something extraordinary was happening. After nearly 3 weeks of silence, she began showing signs of responsiveness. A twitch of her fingers. A flicker of her eyelids. The doctors called it encouraging neurological activity. Victoria was there when it happened, clutching her daughter's hand, whispering softly about the baby. You're going to be a big sister, Claire. Can you believe that? Life's giving us a second chance. But I need you to come back to me to see it. Those words seemed to reach her. Slowly, agonizingly, Claire began to emerge from her coma. Her first words, hoarse and broken, were, Mom, what happened? The reunion was heart-wrenching. Victoria sobbed openly, pressing her forehead against Claire's. You're okay, sweetheart. You're safe now. But as Claire's memory returned in fragments, her face grew pale. Holden, she whispered. It wasn't his fault, someone tried to run me off the road. That revelation sent the Newman family into crisis mode. If Claire's accident hadn't been an accident, it meant someone had tried to silence her, or perhaps use her as leverage against the Newmans. Victor immediately ordered private security for both Victoria and Claire, while Nick and Adam began investigating possible suspects. In the days that followed, Holden came to the hospital to see Claire. Their reunion was tender but tense. She remembered bits and pieces of that night, the argument, the headlights in the rearview mirror, the fear that gripped her before the crash. I thought I was going to die, she said softly, tears filling her eyes. But the last thing I remember was your voice. Holden squeezed her hand. You didn't die, Claire. You're still here. And I swear, I'll find out who did this. But the tension between Holden and Victor reached a boiling point when they crossed paths in the hallway. You stay away from my granddaughter, Victor growled. Holden, standing his ground, replied, with all due respect, Mr. Newman, Claire's not just your granddaughter, she's a woman who deserves to choose who's in her life. And right now, she wants me here. That didn't go over well. Victor had security escort him out, but Holden's determination didn't waver. He was going to protect Claire, even if it meant going against the most powerful man in Genoa City. As Claire slowly recovered, Victoria found herself struggling with the balance between joy and fear. The pregnancy was progressing, but she was under constant stress. Every doctor warned her that